Reaching on the yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the one and only Big Guy Fantasy Sports Network right here live on YouTube. Also, check us out. You see the link down below. You see the link down below. Link is also in the description. See it right there on the banner. Check us out, BigGuyFantasySports.com for all the latest and greatest tools, articles, podcasts, and much, much more. Taco, how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling a bit hurt, but I know after tonight it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. You know why it's going to be okay? See, you and I, we're pretty damn good analysts ourselves. If I must say so, like we're pretty good. But ladies and gentlemen, for all the dogs, that's what I've been doing with the marketing. You know, we found the Swifty joints, and I got 5 on it for episode 5. This is episode 6, ladies and gentlemen. For all the dogs, the dog pound, we brought a legend, ladies and gentlemen, no other. The voice of Sirius XM, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Football Diehard himself, Bob Harris.
Robbie, Taco, how is everybody, man? Robbie, I've been running around. We've been running in the same circles now for a couple of years. This is the first time we've got together to do something, face to face. And I think it's about time.
It's about time. We are going to have a very, very fun episode. Don't worry. At some point, I will sit down, ladies and gentlemen. Chat, be sure that you first, before we get started on tonight's show, you like, you comment, you subscribe. Most importantly, share the content. Share the content. There's this thing called an algorithm, and Robbie loves algorithms. I like playing with algorithms. Let's trick the algorithm. Everybody run it up, share the content, get your friends, your family in here, your aunties, your uncles, your cousin Pookie twice removed, and all the good family up in here. Let's go. Y'all ready to start the show, though?
Let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen. I'm ready to talk some fantasy football. Very first segment of the show is Guess the Consistency Game Show, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody play my theme music, please. And welcome back here on the Goal Line Goons, live on Big Guy Fantasy Sports Network, live here on YouTube, and also check us out on the website, BigGuyFantasySports.com, utilizing our fantasy football consistency ranking tool. These players are all with a consistency ranking of 50% or above. Our panelists here, our wonderful contestants, have not seen the consistency rankings yet for this week. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Hopefully we're not colluding. All righty. Now, with that being said, I will name 4 players, one at a time, each position. Both Taco and Bob have to guess the consistency rating. And only I hold the keys to the consistency ratings. Let's start first. Drum roll, please. First up with the quarterback position. Bob, you will go first. We're going to take it to my Commanders. Okay. Sam Howell, 50% or above consistency rating.
Above.
Above. Do you want to take a stab at what it exactly is?
I'm going to say maybe even above 60. I'm going to put it in the good category.
Okay. We'll go above 60. Taco.
I'm going to piggyback that 60.
60? Do you want to hit right on the nose at 60, or you want to say right? You want to go? You gotta.
I'm going right on the nose 60.
Right on the
It's
nose
my
at
game.
60 for Taco. And the answer is 80%.
80.
Wow.
Motherfucker.
I knew he was like pretty consistent, right? Like, like the sacks notwithstanding, the production has been pretty even. I think he's like right around about 17 points a game or something. I mean, it's been pretty solid.
What's crazy about the sacks allowed? Sam Cosmi against the pass, best PFF rating for an offensive lineman, only in passing situations, though. I saw that today, and I was like, I don't see this on film. Let's see here. We are going to go to the running back position. This man has burst on the scene recently, just is now coming off of a bye week. We're going to take a trip to Cleveland here. Jerome Ford. 50 or above. Where do you want to exactly hit here?
I'll let you go first, Taco. I defer.
I will take that 50 right on that line.
Okay.
I'm saying he's a line hugger.
I think it's under. I think it's under.
You think it's under 50? Oh, wow.
Well,
Everybody that blew their fab in week one.
I'm trying to think the rushing efficiency has got to be horrible. The touchdowns are what carries him, and maybe a little bit of receiving work. I'm going to go under 50.
Oh, wow. Okay. Taco actually got this one right on the nose, right there at 50. Right there at 50.
It's because he had the one big rushing game, and then he had the game where he had the big catch. Those basically saved him.
Yes, this
and
is
then
this
the
is
bye
true.
week.
This is true.
That was a little trick about him. He had the bye.
What's crazy is, if I were to look into a crystal ball, ladies and gentlemen at home, I don't think that it gets much better for Cleveland. Believe, Lynn, you should just stop believing. I'm gonna just leave it right there.
Or you could just look down at my shiny head. It might be as good as a crystal ball.
Oh, Bob, I got you. Next time I see you in person. Let's go to the tight end position. Okay, tight end position. I want to warm it up a little bit, so let's take a trip to the desert. This team clearly has not gotten the memo that they're supposed to be tanking. Zach Ertz, over above 50. Where exactly do you think that Zach Ertz lands on the consistency ranking scale?
I'm going to go in the 50s. I'll say 55.
Okay.
I'm going to go at 60.
You're saying right there at 60. You made a face like you were going to say something after 60.
5 games. Listen, statistics, baby. 60.
Okay. Taco gets it right on the nose again. Taco gets it right on the nose.
3 out of 5, baby.
Okay. Last, but certainly not least, my favorite position on the field. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I played this position in high school and in semi-pro. Michael Pittman. This one's interesting because he's had some Anthony Richardson games, and now he's about to go back to not having Anthony Richardson games. Where do we think he falls? Over above 50, so on and so forth. Bob, you're our guest. You get to go first.
I should defer again because Taco's killing me. I'll take a dive in here and I'll say 70.
Oh, okay.
He's a lot of targets.
Okay, he does get a lot of targets. He's on my fantasy team, one of my 35 fantasy teams. So yeah,
I want to go back with my same answer, 60.
And ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Taco, the winner of the game. Wow.
He only had 3 good games, man.
And ladies and gentlemen,
somewhere Bob Lung is just shaking his head at me for not understanding his consistency rules. What's going on here?
But that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it interesting about the consistency. You do have to vary into the amount of games that have been played as well. With that being said and stated,
that screwed me last week.
Yes, I understand. And you were the first contestant. Way to set the bar, Taco. Way to keep on raising it. We'll see you guys next week on the Fantasy Football Consistency Show with a new contestant. But on to the rest of the Goal Line Goons. We'll be right back. Ah. Woo! All righty. That's one hell of a wardrobe change, you know. This isn't the Grammys, okay? This is a fantasy football podcast. All righty. So back to the show. Welcome to the Goal Line Goons. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the content. We always have to open this up with our weekly segment. Sometimes I just wish that there was a week where we never have to air this segment ever. I don't think that in all my years of making fantasy football content that there's ever been a week in football that I haven't had to discuss this. But let's navigate injuries. Today, Jefferson, Achane, James Conner, and Anthony Richardson injuries have the fantasy football world shook. I'm talking more shook than a Mobb Deep song. Whether trades or waivers, how are you approaching these very unique situations in your leagues? Go ahead and drop some suggestions for the viewers. It's time for Fantasy Football Gems. Go ahead, Bob.
I think first of all, for Richardson, Gardner Minshew is perfectly fine. Oh, and if you're not, if you didn't handcuff him, and who handcuffs their quarterback? If you're worried about guys like Pittman, maybe even Josh Downs, if you're in a deeper league, he can still get the job done, especially if you have Josh Downs in deeper leagues. Minshew's been pretty effective as a passer, has multiple touchdowns in more games than not. So I'm thinking he's a viable play, can keep the offense on schedule. That's the thing you're worried about. In Arizona, we'll see. I mean, you're going to probably want to spend, a dime on DeMarcado. Played reasonably well. I don't know if Keontae Ingram's going to be back this week. Maybe that's a fly in the ointment for you. He's been the backup up until the last 2 weeks. He's been out as well. They added Tony Jones Jr. I think Tony Jones Jr. gets a lot more work than people want to give him, apparently. Nobody seems to really like him that much, yet there he is vulturing touchdowns every chance he gets. And for Justin Jefferson and Achane, those are irreplaceable pieces. They're unique pieces that you're going to have a hard time. I mean, I think it's good news for Raheem Mostert managers. We'll see if Jeffrey Wilson Jr. can get back. I have a lot of shares of him because he was the cheapest of the three Dolphins running backs. So he's sitting there on the IRs in many, many leagues, and maybe he has a chance to contribute a little bit. In Justin Jefferson's case, you're just like Achane, you're not going to replace that unique ability. But you might fill the number void or at least keep from getting zeros by plugging in some of the other pieces in that pass-heavy offense. It's insanely pass-heavy. Or you might benefit from, maybe someone has given up on Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp in. They shouldn't have if they did. Maybe Tutu Atwell's more likely that someone's given up on. Now that Van Jefferson's gone, maybe he's still going to be a viable play in another pass-heavy offense. Jordan Addison's going to get more work. We'll see what he does. KJ Osborne's been perfectly fine as the number 2. He'll get more work there as well. I don't know if TJ Hawkinson can get any more work. So I think, all these guys, the top 2, you're not going to replace that production. It's just too high end with Achane and Jefferson. With Connor, you can hope that somebody can cobble that together for you, but he's been super solid. Probably my most rostered best ball player was James Conner. Just tons of shares because the price was right. And the role, right? I mean, volume is is where we get fantasy production from. So I think, whoever is filling in for him, if they get the role, and I think it will be DeMarcado. I mean, he seems like the default piece, and he delivered when Connor went out. So I'd be fine with him as well. I'd make a play for him. I am making plays for him on my waiver wire. So, I mean, I think we'll get past some of these, but nobody's getting past Justin Jefferson losing your, ostensibly whoever's lost him is their first pick overall in their draft or something very high. And this is just further evidence, like anyone can get hurt, right? We sit here and we draft players where we think, oh, I'm not drafting him, he's injury prone. Like I think if you look at this year's top 12 ADP, there's like 2 guys who haven't missed time. One of them was Jefferson, and the other was Bijan Robinson, and that's because Bijan Robinson never played a game, right? So football's a collision sport.
It can happen.
It happens to everybody at some point, right? I mean, it's just us. So I hope he gets healthy soon. Hope he's back after the 4 weeks is up and running wild and taking you to fantasy championships down the stretch, just like Cooper Kupp, right? Like maybe he'll be the guy that maybe we should have drafted number 1 overall. Oh wait, I did.
A pain. Spain without the S. Is this a good trade? I give Olave. I get Devontae Smith. I feel like you should probably hang on to Olave, especially after the big week that he had. That one incident of AJ Brown being like, "Hey, I'm always open. Give me the ball," has pretty much forced the Eagles offense to be like, "All right, we're going to treat you like T.O. back in the day and just pepper you." And someone who has AJ Brown on the roster and being a close friend of AJ Brown, friend of the Rumboys, I love, what's happening with that side of the production. So I'm sorry, stick with Olave. We'll be fine. I got Olave as well. We're gonna get to a championship. I promise.
Hopefully.
Yep. Taco, how are you navigating the injuries of Jefferson, Chan, Connor, Richardson, and the like?
I mean, in those individual positions, I think KJ Osborne was someone coming in that I liked a lot, like especially in best ball and at the end of my rosters, because it was like, he was going to be on the field a lot. I think this really opens him up for really good work. I'm interested to see how they start to use Akers. Actually, I think that he could be a dynamic player that gets used actually in the passing game and in the running game. That's a sneaky player to actually get in this offense while he's still low, because it looks like Madison's volume starting to change a bit. And if you don't have Jefferson, you could lean on the run more, and that would make him an undervalued piece that you might be able to parlay before he kind of like starts to take the stranglehold on that position, because it looks like Madison is beginning to lose his foothold, and that makes Akers a cheaper piece that you might be able to get that could be viable. Now, I'm not saying he is, but he's starting to show some flashes, and I think we've seen enough instances of him that it's not a terrible decision or play if you're looking at this like Vikings team and seeing this injury and saying, where might that volume get put? Akers might actually be the guy with that running back. What happened?
RB58.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of that came in week 1, but still, yeah.
And the problem was that Madison doesn't look great, which creates an opportunity. And in fantasy football, when you're trying to get trades and stuff like that, you're trying to get an undervalued player. You want to go an opportunity that can play up, and that's what it looks like Akers can do. I mean, to what was being said earlier, I fully agree that Minshew is a total viable play. I have no problem plugging and playing him. I feel like he might be even safer than guys like Stafford. Like, there's just something about Minshew. He's efficient, doesn't really turn the ball over. He's going to have Taylor there. We've seen him do it before where he could be fantasy viable, not for a long time, but for a good time. And I'm perfectly fine with Minshew in my lineup. The running backs in Arizona, it's a bit scary because, like you said, the actual backup hasn't been in the last few games. So what we saw last week, is that what we might see? Is that an anomaly? Like, we're kind of now going a bit blind into this situation, and we're not going to have data till after the fact. So you got to make the move before you have the data. So
it's a gamble.
Bit funky. I think
and that happened. Yeah, you're ecstatic. Yep. I'll mute you, and then you fix your mic. Yeah. And Taco will be right back to finish his take.
Better.
Really quick. There you go. Good job.
There you go.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah, I didn't know that happened, but yeah. So I think that's going to be. I'll probably navigate to his actual back. I think it's Ingram, right? That's kind of where I would go if I had him. But with those 3 guys there, it's going to become a timeshare. Are they any of them really going to be viable when it's all said and done? on this Arizona offense. So I think it's a bit sticky when you think about how much you're going to put in for a guy that got a little bit of work last week that looked pretty solid, but it's a mystery wrapped in an enigma what's going to happen in that running back room right now. And it's only going to be a short time thing, theoretically, until Connor comes back. So I think we got to be careful with how much fab we're going to want to put in that kind of a situation as well.
It could end up being a different guy every week, right? I mean, if Ingram's not ready this week, and maybe he's ready in 2 weeks, we've got a 4-week window to deal with. So,
yep. And like you said, with Tony Jones coming in there and being just another thorn in the side that he wasn't there last week, it's just like you really don't know.
And they've elevated Corey Clement the last 2 weeks too, and he ends up not playing at all. He's been on the practice squad all along, so who knows? It is a little dicey.
The way I'll kind of work through it really quick. First with the Chan, Mostert injuries or Mostert rosters. Cool, congratulations, guys. All Mostert owners, you get your spot back. With that being said and stated, this is one where I'm definitely going to be utilizing my IR spot to the best of my abilities. Try and go out there, see who I can pick up. Maybe I am trying to go DeMercado to block whoever lost Connor and maybe grabbing that piece. That's a strategy that I love utilizing and has helped me get many and many of championships in my time. Maybe even go Ingram, see if I can block that person, go Akers, see if I can block, whoever with that Madison situation. I feel like Madison is pretty secure for the most part in his role. From a personal standpoint, with the Anthony Richardson thing, go and get Minshew. Minshew's a gamer. You're going to get some Baker-esque type kind of playing out of him when you're watching him on Sundays. You may kind of cringe a little bit here and there and be like, whoa, like, what are you doing? But with that being said and stated, that's a gamer that you can definitely go and get. I would even maybe try and pivot towards a Dobbs. Taco brought it up about possibly Kyler not coming back. Should Kyler not come back, then it's the rocket sciences for the rest of the time in Arizona. Justin Jefferson, Bob, you touched on it perfectly said with it being an irreplaceable piece. But with that being said, go get Addison. Go get KJ Osborne. Kirk Cousins is not going to stop putting up fantasy points.
Right.
This team can continue to keep trying to tank for Caleb Williams. Kirk Cousins has that dog in him. And no matter what he has to work with, let's remember he didn't have a whole lot to really work with in Washington outside of the years that we had, the whole Pierre Garçon and so on and so forth with that roster. So go get KJ Osborne, go get Jordan Addison if they're not already rostered. Maybe figure out ways that you can find yourself in a position to trade for him. The person that has Addison probably shouldn't be asking for too much, to be honest. So maybe you can get away with, some 2 low-hanging fruit pieces to bring over Addison. And that's how the 3 of us are navigating those injuries. Yeah, it sucks that injuries take place. News did drop today. A trade happened. A trade did happen today in the NFL. This is definitely like the NFL mimicking fantasy football meeting reality in this case. Van Jefferson traded to the Atlanta Falcons earlier today for a 6th and a 7th round pick in 2025. Basically just, a pick swap. Does this make the likes of Drake London and Kyle Pitts maybe possibly more profitable for fantasy managers, or should we just expect the same typical Arthur Smith offense? I mean, let's face it, Van Jefferson does nothing but run post, and Ritter normally can't throw the ball that far. So maybe, I don't know. Bob, your take.
Another piece that will be unused, but not that he was getting heavily used. Like I had 2 snaps last week, working behind the trio of Kupp, Puka, and Atwell. So So, like, a fresh start can't hurt anybody, but this is obviously going to be a run-heavy offense. Like right now, what is Drake London to you? Is he like, for me, he's a tough wide receiver 3 decision every week. Like, do I play him? Do I not play him? Who else do I have as a possible wide receiver 3? I don't think Van Jefferson cracks that territory for me right off the bat. I do have some rosters with Van Jefferson that I invested in, prior to the, in mid-August, when it looked like he might be the de facto wide receiver 1, or at least that's what we heard going into the season. It ended up being Nakua. So, and Atwell was ahead of him as well. So I haven't dumped him. I'll hang on to him and see if something develops, but I have very little hope. These are all deep bench rosters. If I need to churn, he's out the door.
Okay. Taco.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree. I don't really think it moves the needle. I mean, the one thing I am liking about, the Falcons is it looks like Ritter's consistently getting over 30 attempts a game. Last game, he had like 37 attempts. The question, as always, is the target distribution and how catchable are those targets? At the end of the day, I think that London and even to a lesser extent Pitts and maybe Jonnu Smith are pretty safe bets. And after that, I wouldn't bet on any of the wide receivers they have. They're just used as like sprinkling guys occasionally there. He might be there just in case, someone gets hurt and they have a little bit of extra depth. But it's really only three receivers I actually look at, and obviously Bijan Robinson. But that's it. And Van Jefferson, I mean, listen, if you can cut him and get something else, by all means.
With this whole news that dropped today, the math doesn't fit. It's a very round hole, square peg type of move. You got a receiver that runs nothing but nines, like sevens and nines, basically, barely even sevens. Like he's just running the top of the route tree, all deep shots, all 40-yard plus routes, mixed with a quarterback and an offense that is not predicated on utilizing the passing game. At what point? I don't care about the 28 for 37, 329 yards and a TD. That's for Ritter. That's cute. That's cute. Do that for me on a consistent basis. See what I did there? BigGuyFantasySports.com. Go check it out. Do that for us on a consistent basis, Ritter, and show that you guys can really push the ball downfield and your receivers maybe didn't leave their hands on the flight or either at home. That would basically very, very well help us maybe buy into this move a little bit more. 16-man roster's cool. Obviously, Van Jefferson, you're good. Deep leagues, you're good on this move. For the probability, and if this can possibly affect the probability of Drake London and Kyle Pitts being able to get open in the intermediate routes, those lower routes on the route tree, that's where I don't know, because we've yet to see that. This team is predicated on running the ball. This team is predicated on Jonnu Smith. Drake London, great showing last week. You deserve every right after catching the ball, taking a hit, getting up, and being like, yeah! Because you were probably just as shocked as all of us at home that you even got a target, bro. You were probably just as shocked that you got a deep target at that. All right? That's what that celebration really meant. All right? You want us to be honest. You want me to be honest with y'all, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I feel personally. I don't think there's much ROI in this Atlanta offense. If you have these options, find ways to bail out. Kyle Pitts was probably droppable, even after him showing a little flash last week.
It's tight end.
I also just love laying into Kyle Pitts truthers too. So like I have to add a little salt and lemon in the wound. Take a little vodka port in there,
Zero shares, not
shares.
0 shares.
Bowman big time. That was definitely a shot at you, brother. Much love. That's the biggest Kyle Pitts truther I ever know. I've ever known in life.
Like the analytics guys are right. All the analytics line up and tell you that he's going to be huge. Like the route participation, the air yards, all the numbers line up, and then nothing happens.
And then life happens.
What if this is the beginning?
Like, he's a young man,
Yeah.
and tight ends tend to last a long time, and he's very talented. I grant you that. He's just in the wrong offense at the wrong time right now.
Hey, Kyle Pitts truthers, 2017 OJ Howard truthers. Kith. Meet each other.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
My mantra. I'm not wrong yet.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to be a thing, I swear.
Okay, that train I'm still on. That train I'm still on.
That's how
that train I'll let ride. Before we know it, Kyle Pitts will have more catches, probably sitting in the stands of a Braves World Series game than probably actually on the field.
He might have. He might have.
Let's get into bye week blues. There's only this one's not necessarily like the Blues.
Two teams.
Okay, because it's two teams. Like, we're not into bipocalypse yet.
No,
it could get worse. It's gonna get worse.
Week 7. Oh God.
Week 7, week 9.
Week 7 is the first one.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers find themselves on bye this week. Why did I type it in the sheet like that? Find themselves on bye this week. What are some good plug and plays that you're running in your leagues? And are there players on either of these teams that you'd be willing to even trade and roster, while they're in their down period? Maybe you sit them back, you roster them and get them ready for next week. If you are going that route, how are you designing that pitch for the player that you want?
I don't think you could move a Steeler. In fact, all my Steelers who I might have were heading for ceremonial benchings just to see if I can't get them on track. The only Steeler I'm interested in will not be back until week 7, according to him, Deontay Johnson. I could play George Pickens, and maybe you could sell George Pickens on the hope of a big play threat. But if you're going to try and sell people that this offense is going to get better, you have to hope they've never watched a game.
I feel like that scene, that scene in Black Panther where Michael B. Jordan is like, "Is this your king?" And he just is holding him and just drops him off the ledge of the waterfall. That's us with the Steelers right now. Like the way that you just said that and described that, it's just holding Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin's just.
I mean, we had high hopes. I know people who thought Kenny Pickett, this was the second-year breakout quarterback to have. And, again, they're not wrong yet, but it's heading in that direction quickly. I don't know if it's a Kenny Pickett problem or a Matt Canada problem. Maybe it's a little of both. Maybe it's an offensive line problem. Not having Deontay Johnson for some period changes the dynamic a little bit. But a lot of it seems like the play calling, especially for, in the running game. I mean, Najee Harris, for a while, they were trying to run him on the edge when really they need to run him up the middle. He's not doesn't seem to have that super quick burst that he needs on the to get around the edge. And it seems like maybe they've adjusted a little bit lately, and we're seeing a little more Jaylen Warren. But I don't think you're seeing enough of any of them of either of them for me to get excited and want to force them into lineup. So I'm missing neither. I'm happy I don't have to make a decision involving Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren this week.
As a George Pickens truther, he's nothing more than a human highlight reel at this point right now. Taco, your take. May or may not be missing a couple of Packers. Mr. Luke Musgrave over there.
I mean,
he got chewed out and benched. What the hell?
Listen, after what I've seen from the Packers the last couple of weeks, I'm not really fond on buying many of them.
Kristen Watson, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
And you might get him. I mean, you're
going to get him cheap now.
You should be able to get him a little cheap. I mean, he hasn't hit the touchdown bonanza yet. He has won, since his return. But, I mean, and maybe Romeo Doubs is a guy you could buy on the low. I still think maybe at the end, by the time things are all said and done, he's the guy that's going to have the volume. But I'd probably rather have the big play threat in Watson.
Yeah, and I think it just gets very dicey when you're talking about that running back situation because Jones, he hasn't been healthy very much this season. When he's played, he's had some big games, and then, that last game he kind of fizzled. I'm just very nervous about it. If someone's offloading him to you, I don't know how aggressively I would be targeting him. If you're getting an offload as a throw-in, maybe. I know that running backs right now are hurting. Like a lot of teams are hurting. I have teams that I'm desperate. I'm like between Justice Hill and freaking Najee Harris and like kicking myself because actually Justice Hill was better. And he was in my lineup until the 11th hour. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just this year is tough at this position. So I can see you grabbing some of these Arizona Cardinal backs as a plug and play this week to get through it. Especially if Ingram's not out, you could see the other guy being viable, but it's tough right now. So I see right now making a move for any of these guys. Roshan Johnson, God forbid he's available in your league, but bust open the bank. He get 40% of my budget right now. Like I don't care.
He's got a concussion. You mean Deontay Foreman? That's who you need.
Like, bro, a Foreman even. Yeah, I'm happy there.
If there's no Roshan Johnson, Foreman's like a running back too.
Yeah. And the thing about Foreman is last year when he came for the Panthers for that short bit, he was just balling.
So here's the thing. Foreman's another guy that I have on a lot of rosters because why? He was the cheapest piece of a trio, right? I do that a lot. If they're like combos and like, okay, and you have to have room, they can't be like narrow benches, but if you got the bench,
deep benches,
get those cheap pieces, and because you never know. I'm told injuries happen in the NFL and attrition is a thing. And at some point, everybody gets a turn, and it looks like Foreman might get one here soon. And he might mix in with Roshan, though. And if he mixes in with Roshan, he's not quite a 2, but he's still maybe a flex level.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, someone told you that injuries happen in the NFL.
Yeah, to that philosophy and theory, that's something that you maintain throughout the season goes on. And that last man on your bench, as you begin to see, like, this guy's not viable, and you see another running back that, like he said, is a third piece. And as these injuries begin to happen, you start having these guys on your team without having to spend fab, and you're already lined up for the next essential injury or play before it even happens.
I'm very old, and every year of my adult life, a running back somebody didn't draft has won somebody a fantasy championship, right? Comes out, sometimes it's like C.J. Anderson rolling off the damn couch.
Hightower.
Yep.
Hightower. I can go back to Nick Goings, Ruben Drones.
Yeah. It's like, where did this guy come from?
Remember when we didn't know who Arian Foster was? I mean, the Texans had a whole series of Dominic Williams came out of nowhere and had a huge year. I mean, there's always going to be guys that come out of nowhere and win you a title. Peyton Hillis is going to show up and hit himself a Madden cover and then never be heard from again until he happily saved his child from drowning this year.
Yeah. Hey, big ups. Really quick. Cohen asked Devontae Smith for Pittman and Miles Sanders.
Desperate for running back.
I'd rather keep Smith there because Sanders' situation is a bit dicey. And
Chuba had more snaps. This is the first time Chuba had more snaps. It has been the trend. Also, Laviska Shenault Jr., they've been trying to decide what the hell to do with him. They gave him 5 carries this week. I don't know that that's going to be a thing, but anything that dilutes Miles Sanders' pool right now is not great. I do think Pittman is perfectly suitable. And if you just need a body, a guy that'll help you avoid a 0 at running back. I mean, that's what this move seems like it's about. It's not about Pittman. It's about the running back. And so Pittman's serviceable. So if you need that body, Sanders is that. I like Devontae Smith an awful lot. I think there's going to be weeks where he shows up. This seems like this offense, for Philadelphia, it's been A.J. Brown mostly the last few games, but every now and again, it's a little bit of a whack-a-mole, right? There's good, Dallas Goedert's going to show up this one week, Devontae Smith's going to show up many weeks, and A.J. Brown's going to show up. It seems like there's going to be one guy that rises above, and so that's both the downside and the upside of Devontae Smith. You're not playing him as your wide receiver 1. Sometimes you're going to get huge wide receiver 1 numbers, but not for the most part. So Pittman, I think, is a little bit more even for me.
More even break with Pittman, safer floor with Pittman. We know that he's going to get peppered with targets, whether it's Minshew or Richardson under center. This is definitely a desperation for running back there. I feel like just the name value alone, you could probably, psychology, Jedi mind trick someone into maybe getting a little something better than Sanders. maybe not a whole lot, but like you'd be like, hey, throw me
I don't think
Damian
you're going to
Pierce.
get better than that. I think that's about, to me, that's about the max you're going to get for Devonta Smith.
Okay. But either way,
Unless you downgrade a wide receiver, and unless you get something less than Pittman. I mean, if you swap that around and maybe lift up a little bit on the running back, I'm trying to think of who would be you couldn't go even Kyron Williams. That'd be too high.
Yeah, I was going to say Damian Pierce. Pierce.
That seems like reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that offensive line's getting better. Maybe at some point they'll wear out CJ Stroud's arm and he won't be able to throw as much.
Is trading for JJ? No, we're actually about to get into that, or we kind of touched on that. With the whole Justin Jefferson thing, it's sounding like he's going.
He's going on IR. He's going to miss 4 games. I mean, it's not a permanent condition. If somebody wants to get rid of him for nothing, or if somebody feels like he's going to be not back, at some point, I'd make a deal for him. I think he's worth, definitely worth the roll in the dice. If you can talk someone out of JJ for a reasonable price, good for you. I would totally do that.
The way that I'm approaching that is, I'm hearing, in many of circles that he could be potentially holding out with it being a contract year if Minnesota doesn't win games. I think that's the way that you kind of work that. And you just pray that Minnesota wins games and that he does come back. Because I'm more so along the lines of, I don't think Minnesota's going to win a whole lot of games without him.
Well, here would be the trigger. If they start looking, if you hear serious talk about them trading Kirk Cousins, which I don't think is going to happen. Why would Kirk Cousins? He's got a no trade clause. He's going to be a free agent next year. He's going to make a ton of money. Why would he want to change teams in the middle of a season? And run the risk of looking bad before he goes into free agency. I don't think he's going anywhere. So that might be to me the determining factor.
I heard I saw someone say, I am treating the Justin Jefferson situation just like the Joe Mixon toe injury. And I'm pretty much just not going to play. I can't do it.
I'm going to buy. I'm going to take an opportunity to buy. If someone's willing to let go of him, if someone has that fear that you're having, Robbie, I'm going to say, okay, I'll cobble something together and take my chances. It is a gamble, right? Because the range of possible outcomes is Robbie's totally right. And but that is worth a little bit of a gamble, the possibility of him being back and being Justin Jefferson.
If I'm right, I get a feature. I'm just saying. Look, that would be sliding in. Would you give Kamara and DJ Moore for Justin Jefferson?
That's too much.
That's pretty much what you would have.
That's too much.
I wouldn't do it.
No, that's too much. I'm not doing that.
DJ Moore is on fire. You just can't do it, man. You can't take
DJ Moore has multiple years of being on fire to stand behind it, right? He had a couple of lousy games to start the season when the Bears offense was out of sort. Look, I don't know if Justin Fields is going to be the Justin Fields we've seen the last couple of weeks, but he doesn't have to be. We've seen Miles, DJ Moore has earned my honorary quarterback proof card from his time in Carolina, playing with a series of less than ideal quarterbacks and dominating with them. The only thing that's been missing has been the touchdown production. It's back. It's here. It shows up. And I don't know. We'll see. I think Justin Fields normalizes a bit. It was against Denver one game. It was against a Washington defense that, according to Magic Johnson, was uninspired and lacked intensity. And also, according to my sources, which were my eyeballs, Magic Johnson had that totally right.
Thanks, Bob.
So I would say I'm hanging on to DJ Moore in this one, and Alvin Kamara as well. I think he's going to be very busy.
Yeah, I'm hanging on to those two pieces. Those two pieces, mathematically speaking, in terms of fantasy points, are definitely going to equate and outpower Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that'd be an overpay. You're going to lose. You're losing at least 4 games, and if Robbie's right, you never see him again.
Yep, exactly what I was going to say there. And plus, Justin Fields had a QBR top 4 QBR from weeks 4 all the way through the rest of the season last year. Narratives are narratives. Maybe he just can't play September football. Who knows? Just like how Dak can't stop throwing interceptions. I went there. Dallas, did y'all feel that? I hope y'all felt that. Really quick, kind of going to the topic that we were on before we get in to the kind of final-ish topic of the show. Keep both. Look, maybe you can try and move off of George Pickens somehow, but I mean, you probably keep Pickens with the bye-apocalypse coming up, and Pickens can be a nice fill-in. I like Pickens as a fill-in with bye weeks coming up, and you're just kind of wishing on a prayer with that one. With the Green Bay Packers, go and get Reed in leagues. I really like Reed as a flex, and I feel like so many people are just completely overlooking him. I know that when
he plays with a quarterback that only completes 55% of his passes, he's got. I mean, there's not enough to go around until Jordan Love gets better.
Exactly, Jordan Love definitely has to progress, but there's some safe floors. I feel like with Reed, obviously. Last night against the Raiders, I feel like that was more so of an anomaly. They need to figure out that offense. Hopefully during the bye week, they figure out that offense of how they're going to spread the ball around because they have so much talent that I don't even think that they know what to do with. It's a good and a bad problem to have to deal with. But I do like the idea of maybe grabbing Reed. He is only rostered 40% of leagues. You can easily grab him. And then, I mean, maybe you trade for Christian Watson. I'd much rather have Dobbs. I feel like Dobbs and Love have already kind of, built the Love thing. You know what I'm saying?
I think it feels like maybe depends on what your roster's built like. Like if you need a guy that's maybe a steadier Eddie, I think Dobbs is the guy that probably you want. If you want just like if you need a home run swing on your bench or a home run swing in your lineup, you have a Keenan Allen and another guy that, somebody else that gets, super consistent and you want that like big swing for the fence play, it's probably Watson.
Yeah, and then that's the way I would approach that. Let's get into the final topic here. Denver. This is probably the most reversed, ironic thing ever. Obviously, there's more media narratives to this ever, more so, but Sean Payton finds himself in the most ironic reverse narrative possibility in NFL history following a anger-fueled sideline rant towards one Russell Wilson. Thoughts on this team's fantasy outlook rest of season and also the NFL outlook. I am so ready to bet any team that faces the Broncos money line just all day. Throw the rent on it, 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem. Throw the rent on it jokingly, and I'm ready to ride. What are your thoughts, Bob?
I'm hoping I'm playing the pieces of the Broncos offense that I have because they've got to play catch up. They're not stopping anything
except Judy.
Except Judy. Like I have zero investment in Judy. Remember the whole thing, buying cheaper pieces of passing attacks? I have way more Tim Patrick still on rosters because I was buying the super cheap piece. But I do once Tim Patrick with that, I started buying Cortland Sutton. He's probably going to be the piece. I'm just, Judy has not been.
I love you. Yes.
Guy that he's been pushing. So anyway, I mean, look, if you have Judy, maybe you get some games out of him. But like Russell Wilson is going to be a play a lot of weeks. I mean, he's averaging close to 20 points a game. I mean, it's
dangerous.
Throw. We'll see what Javonte Williams turns into. I got some shares of Jaleel McLaughlin. I think his role is going to be persistent, even when Javonte Williams is going, and maybe even his role gets better as they use him in more playmaking situations. I think Marvin Mims is a guy that needs to be on the field more, but he's not there yet. Maybe Sean Payton will come to his senses on that when he's getting his ass beat, on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe he'll figure that out at some point that he needs to get him on the field a little more, But Greg Dulcich comes back this week, and we'll see what he could be at some point. But that defense is so bad that it's just going to force the offense's hand. So I'm not against the pieces. I don't think it's going to be a great year for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos in general. I'm predicting a losing season. Yes, I am great at predicting things in this case because
yes,
it's a pretty easy call on this one.
I wanted to add kind of something to this take here, and I want to make sure I have it. Where is it? Taco, you take. Oh wait, really quick, Taco. Before you take it away, I want to add some context. 5 weeks into the season, Denver has lost to their former head coach, Josh McDaniels. That's never good when that's someone that you lost to. Defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, former head coach of the Londonville Jaguars. Head coach, Vic Fangio, former head coach of the Denver Broncos. Ball boy, Mike McDaniel. If you guys remember the scene from The Incredibles where, like, what's his name, Supremo or whatever, is like lifting Mr. Incredible up in the air and he's like giving that dialogue of like, you should have let me be an Incredible. Yeah, that was Mike McDaniel. Former head coach Nathaniel Hackett. You got bodied by everyone that you like talk trash about or was some way, some shape, form involved in that organization at some point in time, with the exception of Jack Del Rio.
I would say if you have a running back on your roster, if you have Isaiah Pacheco on your roster for Thursday night, get him in there. They
Smash the over.
Running back, running backs have been money against this team. But yeah, outside the Raiders, every back since then. What do we had? We had I want to say Commanders. It was Commanders in week 2, right? So Brian Robinson had a solid game. The Dolphins obviously lit him up. All the backs lit him up. Khalil Herbert had an epic game against them, ran for over 100 yards. And then Breece Hall totally did everything that Breece Hall is designed to do in his first game with the training wheels off. And so Isaiah Pacheco this week, giddy up.
Absolutely. Taco, your thoughts on this whole situation?
I think that, we gotta hope that Judy gets traded out of there, man. He can't end like this. He can't go
the Judy
like
shooter tries to make it about Judy.
Like at some point in time, I think that they do figure it out and become somewhat respectable on offense, because I do think Peyton is a good coach.
He is.
So if I can buy low and get a couple shares in here, I'm not that mad. If I have Javonte Williams, I'm definitely moving off. Like, if I can get anything for him, same thing for Samaje Perine. I don't think either one of those guys by the end of the season are going to be viable. I think
you'll get a half a taco for Samaje Perine.
Like, he's like one bite left before he's gone. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's definitely a McLaughlin show going on, and it's not Sarah. So it's gonna be the guy that you're gonna want for the end. It's gonna for the end of the season. I think he's gonna be one of those guys that can carry a couple of teams into gym championships, because he'll just get the volume. He's just gonna get running backs, and no one else is gonna be there, and everyone will be phased out by the end of the year. Because let's face it, he's Peyton's guy now. He's Peyton's guy.
All right. So really quick, my question for you, Taco. Right? Only because I know you and because I love you, bro. Like,
yep.
I just get it. Were you wrong about Judy? Are you ready to move off of Judy? Are you ready to let go?
Listen, as of right now, because again, most of the shares that I bought were in best ball season before he got hurt. So, like, do we know what could have been? So
not wrong yet. Not wrong yet.
Right now, it doesn't look great.
This is like, I've been a fantasy person. This has been my full-time job for 30 some years now, 31 years. I have perfected the art of not wrong yet.
Yeah.
You're doing a fine job, Taco.
Thank you very much.
See, no, like I'm ready to move off. I'm ready to move off. One of the things that I wanted to throw out, kind of just like on like the Jerry Jeudy thing. I tried to trade away Jerry Jeudy on a roster where he's just been sitting on my bench. He was going to sit there anyways. Long story short, I was in the middle of this draft, was driving, lost reception. He ended up getting auto drafted. This is definitely not something that Robbie would intentionally do. Okay. But ended up with Jerry Jeudy on my roster. And hopefully you guys can find a diehard Broncos fans. Get what I did there, diehard? Yeah. Marketing on this guy. But no, hopefully you guys can find a diehard Broncos fan and maybe try and move him. I am in the process right now. We already know that I'm super high on Michael Wilson. It's a player that jumped off the tape for me right away, immediately during scouting season. I'm trying to move Judy for Michael Wilson, and I think that you should too, because I think that Michael Wilson could possibly, especially with this talk of like Hollywood Brown, possibly get moved to the Carolina Panthers and these rumor mills and such. If Hollywood goes, and if Kyler doesn't play again, that Dobbs and Wilson connection, give me all of that. Give me all of Michael Wilson in redraft. Let me get some Michael Wilson in Dynasty right now before that Hollywood trade happens. And then also let me get the Dobbs and Wilson stack every single Sunday in DFS, baby, because I know it's going to be so contrarian that we're going to make moolah. That's my take.
I use the Sesame Street analysis on Michael Wilson. One of these things is not like the other. He's the different piece in that offense, right? That's his feature. He's the big body. He's the physical presence for amongst a bunch of little tiny speedsters.
Absolutely, and he's such a threat in the red zone. It has no problem just like just going up there and head topping the other defender, the opposing defender. I love it, and I think that we're going to get a lot more of it. Other than that, anything else that wants to cover? That's the whole show.
I want to talk more about Taco not being wrong yet.
I'm
not wrong yet. So like I'm like totally going to say right now I'm not wrong on Darren Waller yet or Jahmyr Gibbs. Not yet. Not letting go.
Not yet on Gibbs. Not yet on Gibbs.
Not letting go.
We're not even 50% of the season.
Thank
come
you,
on,
Taco.
man.
Thank you, Taco.
I know it just happens like that. All of a sudden, he hits 6 weeks in a row.
The conversations we're having, the conversations we were having in September are not the conversations we're having this month. They're not the conversations we'll be having in November, and they absolutely are not the conversations we'll be having in December.
Yep.
No. I like I've always said, Rumtober football, is very different than September. For a lot of teams, September is just a warm-up. Bears. So you kind of start getting into the season, and that's when you really get into the thick of things. Don't overreact. Just equally react. You don't overreact to a stock, too crazy. You're like, no, let me let that develop. Half the time you're not even thinking.
I'm very poor though, so don't listen to my stock advice.
Exactly. Like, don't listen to I do not work as a financial advisor, my regular job. Anyways, but no, for real, like don't panic, don't overreact, and check out every single source that you can, especially football diehards. Our special guest, thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. It's been delightful. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Honor.
Can
nice
I
to
get
meet you, Taco?
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, you guys' first time meeting. Hopefully we get Taco to the expo this year. I'll definitely be at the expo this year. That's for damn sure.
I'm a regular.
Yes, this is facts. Can we get you to plug whatever, like everything that you got coming out next, Sirius XM, etc.? Go ahead, it's your time.
Yeah, it's a football diehard. Like follow me on the social medias at football diehard. Listen to my radio show, Football Diehards. Go to my YouTube channel, Football Diehards, and my website, footballdiehards.com.
Exactly.
Branding.
I make it easy.
That SEO.
Branding right there.
Also, be sure to check us out, BigGuyFantasySports.com. And then you can check Taco and I the rest of the week over on my channel, Rumboyz Fantasy Sports Network. We are the little brother channel of Big Guy Fantasy Sports. So I guess however you want to put it. But yeah, we the brother channel. And yeah, big shout out to Bob for being our special guest. Big shout out to the CEO of Big Guy Fantasy Sports, Bob Long. And we'll be seeing you guys next week on episode 7. I haven't named that episode yet, but it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. Let's see what the NFL
Death Week.
Don't die. Cheers to me, cheers to you for all the dogs. My Goal Line Goons, what it do? Dilly dilly, we out of here.
Preaching on the yeah.